um, carry on with the medium AI. I should change the title of my document. You'll see in your Google Classroom, you've got a document for it. So one of the first things I want to do is I'm going to take the AI program, and I know I need something to find free spaces. And I really should have made a function for free spaces. Previously in our AI, when we played our game, we had something that just counted the buttons and looked for empty. So what I want to do is I want to take the AI move, and instead I'm going to say AI move is going to be a random integer from 1 to the number of empty spaces. And so I'm going to need to make a number empty function. So I can just say how many are empty. And this is slightly different from the functions we've done before, because the functions that we have made before, we didn't really use as a value. We used them as more of a procedure that did a bunch of things. In this case, number empty is just going to return a number like 8 or 5. It's going to tell me how many are empty. So I'm going to take this code here that I put, which is AI move is a random number from 1 to the number of empty. And that's how we're going to start our code. So previously in our AI, our simple AI, what we did is we wanted to place a number in an empty space. And so what I really want to do is to place a random O in an empty space. I'm going to say AI move is a random number from 1 to the number empty, and let's place in that empty space our AI's move. And so now my simple AI says place an O in a random empty space. So here you go. Our move is a random empty space. And then we're going to place in that empty space our move. So what I need to do is I better make a function if I'm going to call the function. And this is slightly different. So I'll put it right here. And it's going to be called number empty. And what we're going to do is I want to count how many empty spaces. So I've already got something that does that right here. And so I'm just going to take that code and I'm going to start to work on it. Okay, so when I put the code down here, here is my function for number of empty spaces. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take our button list and we're going to say empty is 0, button in button list, and if the button has nothing in it, take our variable empty and add 1 to it. And then this is the key statement that we haven't really used before. So when I call the function number empty, what it's going to do, it's going to do all the code here, but it's going to return a variable value. In this case, how many empty spaces? So when I say number empty, it's going to return how many are empty. And in fact, I'm going to take the code here. I used a different variable name, and I'll just test that out. So maybe let's go back here, and instead of that, oops, so I'll just go here. And notice when I deleted it, it should have deleted the whole thing. So you do have to be careful with your indenting. Sometimes I was sloppy in here, and to get it to look in the document to be lined up, I used the space bar. And so just to be careful, typically all these should be a tab. So when I press tab, it should go right to there. But you'll see some might not. So just do be careful if you're copying and pasting that the tabs are a tab in, not a couple of spaces. Most editors will fix that anyhow, but just something to let you know, as a student might have a problem there. Okay, so I really have done nothing. My program works just like it did before. If I go run, it really should run just like it did before, simple AI, and I start playing, and the AI will hopefully, well, it worked, play just fine. Okay, one of the things that happens, and it didn't happen there, I won, it's hard to get a tie, is tie games. We didn't really work on tie games, or you might have skipped over that part. And now that we have number empty, what I can do is I can also go to my win function, and I can also check to see if there's no empty spaces. If there's no empty spaces and the game over is not true, so not game over, I want to say that the game over is done. And you might find if you get ties with AI that this will cause an error. So because the game's going to finish and then AI is going to still want to keep playing. So I want to make sure I turn game over to true. So if you didn't do that, because we have this number empty function, and again, we can say, is the number empty? The first time it's going to be 8. Is 8 equal to 0? No, so that's not going to be true. And it's going to keep doing that. But eventually, number empty is going to be 0. And if it is 0, we're going to make sure that the game over is true. So I'm going to put this code here in my checking for a win. So let's go to my check for a win. And while I'm here, I'm just going to also point out, I like to put lots of comments in. And I look at checking horizontal rows for a win. Then once I've done that, I said check for vertical rows. And once I've done that, check for diagonal. And I see there's a problem here because there should only be 2 diagonals. So 3, 6, and 9, that is the diagonal. So if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then 7, 8, and 9, the diagonals are going to be a diagonal that goes this way, 3, 5, and 7. Whoops, I put the comment in the wrong spot. So here is 3, 5, and 7. That's correct. And then the other one is 1, 5, and 9. 1, 5, and 9. Yes, so that's correct. 3, 6, and 9 is a vertical. So I must have put the comment in the wrong spot when I did this. Oops. So it's just a comment error. It's not actually a error. But it's good because of the comment, I could say, something didn't quite seem right. Oops, Control Z. Okay, so here we've got if it's the horizontals, verticals, the diagonals. So far, it hasn't found a win in all of those. So the last thing I need to do is say, was it a tie? So maybe I'll put a comment in here, check for a tie, and set game over if tied. So if we didn't get a game over, so that means that this one wasn't true and this one wasn't true. And in fact, that's kind of redundant because I'm using elif. There's no way game over because game over would be true in one of the elifs. So I didn't need to put this. It just makes it read easy. That's why I kept it there. So if it's not game over, so in other words, the other ifs weren't true, which we know is the case because we're using elif, and the number of empty is 0. So there's no spaces left. If there's no spaces left, we're going to say game over is true. Great, so that's all the wins, all those. One last thing I did last time is I also said that if the game over, disable all the buttons because I don't want someone to cheat and start clicking on other buttons when the game is done. Okay, so we've got all that. Let's modify the menu for a hard AI. So what we need to do is we need to look at our menu. So let's go back to our AI menu, and I'll just copy the code here and put it on. I've got part of the menu done as well, but here is the AI menu, and I'm just gonna stick it here, paste it. So the AI menu is gonna have a function called simple AI, and the text is gonna be simple. A function, a command here for medium, and a command for hard. So I need to make medium AI and hard AI and simple AI up at the top. So we need to have those functions. So far we've already got simple. So I just need to do a medium AI function. And I'll copy the code from here and put it in here. And a hard AI. So a couple of things with this. Why would I do 3 different things if they do all the same? So what they do is they turn AI on. So all of these are going to turn the AI on. And so I've got a variable called AI mode. But what I also need to do, and you'll see I talk about it here, is the AI mechanics. I need to create something like an AI level. And arbitrarily, I'm going to say simple is level 1, medium is level 2, and hard is level 3. So let's go back to my code and do that. So if I selected simple, I'm going to say the AI level is 1. If I selected medium, I'm going to say the AI level is not 1, but 2. And if I selected hard, I'm going to say the AI level is 3. Now I also would need to pass the AI level variable, and so I'll just copy and paste that as well. I'll say in each of these, I'm going to use this global AI level, and I better put that as part of my initialized variables. So our default level is going to be 1. Great. I should probably do another function to turn AI off, and I didn't put that in the write-up, but I could simply do that here. Let's add a separator after hard, and this is the AI menu. So I can go AI menu, add a separator, and then I'm going to say the AI, let's copy this one here. I'm going to say is going to be player versus player, no AI, or turn off. Turn off AI. And so I'll call this AI off. And so let's go do that. I didn't put it in the tutorial. I probably should. But let's quickly go to the top and add that as well. So I've got the simple, medium, and hard. And I'm also going to have, AI off. I think I called it. Hopefully I did shoot. And basically all I'm going to do is I'll take the global AI mode, and I'm going to say AI mode is false. And there you go. So now I've defined simple, medium, and hard, and off for my AI. Okay, so we really haven't done anything. We're just working on some of the, I called it lowercase off. I had to remember if I capitalized it. Okay, we're really just, I could run it and I could start to see, does everything look good? Are there any obvious errors? You can see I've got simple, or let's do simple AI. I do a play, AI plays. I could turn AI off. It should probably reset the game as well. But for now, I'm just going to say turn off and say, okay, I'm going to place X. And now you can see I can place X and O's as I wanted. and it works great. So I would probably change a little bit of the AI off to reset the game, but that's fine. Okay, what's next? Next, we need to modify how AI works. Now that we have levels, we want to modify and do different things for different levels. So if our AI is at level 1, then we're going to do what we originally did in our AI. So let's take a look at doing that. So if I go to the AI, the simple AI just moved into a random space, but I want to now say that if AI is at level 1, what I want to do is I'm going to do these things. This is easy AI. So all this code here is easy AI. Simple. We place an O in an empty space. Okay, let's do an elif and say it's not so if it's level 2, which is medium AI, then we're going to do some coding. And so in here, I'll say code for medium AI. Make it look pretty, I guess. I don't know. Okay, let's go back. So what is some smarter thinking that the medium AI needs to do? Well, one of the first things I'm going to get the AI to do is if it's the first move, what I want to do is I want to place a button in the middle, and let's take a look why. So if we take a look at trying to make a smarter one, there's 8 possible smart moves. And so the smartest move is right here. That's the best spot because there's lots of different ways to win. However, there could be an X already in this spot. And if there's an X in this spot, then where do I place my first move? And my first move, I'll say, let's choose the top corner. Or I could make it do a random corner, but that's harder. Let's just choose the top corner. Okay, so how are we going to do that? And really, it's not that hard. What we're going to do is basically we're going to take a look to see if the middle is free. Whoops. So I'm going to see put an if statement here. So I'm going to say for the first move. So if number empty is 8, that means we're doing the first move. I want to check to see if, not button 1, button 5 is empty. If the middle is empty. And if it is, we're done. Place our mark, we're done. But if it's not, we're going to place a mark here. Great. So we've done the first move. We place in here. The next thing I need to do is there's only 6 moves. So what I want to do is try to look and place in a corner. That could be my second move, could be always going for a corner. So we could look at doing that as a second move. Or what we could do is if we didn't want to have, well, we could do this. We can have multiple AIs. So if it's our second move, we can say, let's place a corner. So let's think about doing that. So again, I'll go back here. It wasn't the first move. So I'm going to say it's not the first move. So let's check for a second AI move. Place in a corner. We could say that's a smart move, and we could start setting that up. So again, we're going to say if the corner 1 is free, place it in the corner 1. If corner 1's not free, check for corner number 2, which is button 3. And if that's true, place it there. If that corner's not free, and you'll notice the tabs, I had to backspace here. do 7. And if that's not free, check for 9, which obviously would have to be free. So place it 9. So now we've got the second move. So now let's play. We just have to do all the last moves. So we have the third and fourth AI moves, because you only have 4 moves, I believe, in because X gets to have possible 5, O only gets possible 4. So let's do the third and fourth move, and then we're done, and we've got a medium AI that hopefully works. So this one is a little bit harder. For the smarter one, what we want to do is we want to block the X. So there's lots of different ways to block the X. In fact, there's 8 ways to win. So what we need to look at is, where is there 2 X's and an empty? So let's take a look at our tic-tac-toe board here. And if our tic-tac-toe board, so our first move, let's say O was here, and the second O ended up being here, and X, when X went first, X placed a move here, and then X placed a move here. So our third move, let's say an X had already placed, let's say X, well, I'll do a stupid X. It didn't go for the win. Our third move is I want to block one of the X's, even though I've lost this game. So our third move is we should take a look, and where is the first place where X has 2 X's and a blank? And in fact, that would be right here. So this would be the blank. So I want to check button 1 and button 3, and I want to see if button 2 is empty. Great, so let's program that. Easy enough to do. In fact, I've already started it here. So I'm going to create a function called blockX. And what I'm going to do in the function is, so I'm going to go up here to my functions, and I want to create a function called blockX. Whoops. And so I'm going to check the first row. So if button 1 is empty and button 2 is X and button 3 is X, place a mark in here. Okay, was that the case? No, button 2 was the one that was empty. So I basically need to do an elif, and I want to say pretty well the same thing here. I want to check button 1, and I want to say if button 1 is equal to an X, button 2 is empty, and button 3 is X, then I'm going to place an O in button 2, because button 2 is empty. And then I'm going to say elif, button 1 is X, button 2 is X, but button 3 is empty. Then I'm going to place my mark in button 3. Great. First row down, only 8 more sequences to go. So you can see it's going to be quite a big if-then statement. There's going to be 24. So there's 8 ways to win. 3 across, 3 diagonal. 3 across, 3 down, and 2 diagonal. But all I need to do is I need to just keep matching all the rows. So I've done, in those 3 if statements, I've done every combination of X being here and a blank and so forth. I've done X being here with a blank and X being here with a blank. So now I need to do the next row. Is there a blank here and X and X? And then is there a blank in the middle and X? And then is there a blank there? Then once I've done those 3, I'm going to do the same thing for this row. And then once I've done this row, I'm going to go and do the columns. So I've got a column, a column, a column, a diagonal, and diagonal. So some of you are groaning, but it's really not that hard. So let's go back, and I'm just going to quickly do my code here. And you'll see I've done just the rows. I haven't done the columns, but let me just copy it. It's up to you to do that, and I'll get you to do that. And we can start to test it. So block X, there is the beginning of block X. There's the first row, there's the second row, there's the third row, and you'll see a pattern starts coming up, and it actually is pretty quick. I'm going to continue to do the 3 verticals and 2 diagonals. Then the last thing I need to do is, suppose there was no block. X didn't have any 2 that made a pattern that I needed to block. So if there's no other 2, I'm going to put an else statement, and basically I'm going to do what I did in simple AI. I'm just going to move to an empty random space. So I put else. So if that's not true, just play in an empty space. Super. So this is done. I can run it. And you'll see after all that coding, kind of a long video, but after all that coding, you'll see when I do medium AI, if I start playing, I'm going to play a dumb move here. So it did just what I thought. It played in a corner. I'll do a dumb move, and it should have played an O right here. I don't know why it didn't. I'll check it out. But that is basically what should have happened. O should have played here, and yeah. Okay, there you have the video, and I'll upload it to YouTube, and